Hi viewers and welcome to the channel and welcome to another Understanding FreeCAD series. We're going to be looking at creating an F1 nose cone. Now this is going to be a very simple design. We're going to be looking at more complex designs in the future. This carries on from where we left off with the drafting from our last lesson. We're going to be drafting this section and also this connection section here. Then we're going to be using a sweep or an additive pipe. This allows me to create this wing underneath here. And you can see we've got some other shaping going on. We're going to be showing you how to do this, and also we're going to be showing you how to sweep other profiles but without the twisting. We're also going to be looking at Boolean operations and how to use those and some of the problems you can come across and best practices to overcome those problems when you're designing your model. So I hope you're enjoying the series. I hope you're enjoying all the other tutorials on my channel. And let's have a look at this technique. If you like what you're seeing, please subscribe to the site. I also have a Ko-Fi or a coffee site that you can donate to if you so desire. And that's at ko-fi.com/MANG0. I also run a Patreon where you can subscribe and get extra content. And that's at www.patreon.com/MangoJellySolutions. Any money that's kindly donated will be used to expand the channel. So for this demonstration, we're going to be in the part design and we're going to create a body and create a sketch. I'm going to be using the XZ plane. Now this is your interpretation of a Formula Series nose cone. I'm going to go for something very basic. Now if you've seen the Understanding FreeCAD series, on lesson 12 we looked at the drafting. I'm going to be using the same technique there. Also going to be using the same shape. So this is what inspired this tutorial. So I'm going to use the polyline and we're going to create a very simple length in here to get to the dimensions. Hit escape again, and we'll just set some dimensions on here. It's up to you what scale you're actually working to. So I've got my base dimensions, maybe a little more, and I'm going to create an arc, auto constraint to the top, and create the arc, and we can create another arc here as well. And this is just to shape the nose cone. Use tangencies so they connect together correctly, so it's nice and smooth. And we can shape that nose cone like so. And I may bring this down a bit. Once I've got the initial shape, I can use constraints to constrain these down, but I'm just going to come in and use a block constraint just to lock all this down. So now we've got our first profile. Very simple. It's up to you what you want to do with that. We can make this a bit more detailed, but we can go into that later. So we've got one sketch. I'm going to duplicate that. Make sure that we remove the XZ plane because we don't need that, and we'll duplicate that up again. So now we've got three sketches all on top of each other. Because they are attached to a plane, the XZ plane, we have the attachments first. Now this is important because we're going to be removing it from that plane, that support. But first of all, let's place this somewhere. So we want the middle one to stay where it is, and we want to move these out. So I'm going to move it out by 10 millimeters, perhaps a bit further, 20. And we'll do the same to the other one as well. But this one's going to be minus, so minus 20. So this one's the middle one, and then we've got the two others. Now we can select them in order by using the shift. These are in order anyway, because we're going to make a loft. So we must select the starting one, and select this one, control select the others, and use the loft, or come up to part design, additive feature, additive loft. Those are lofted through, but we can see the shaping isn't right. So I'm going to come into the middle one, look at this additive loft, if you look at it, these are in order now. So the first one we selected is first, followed by the middle, and then the last one. I'm going to highlight these and press the spacebar to show them. Double click on the middle one to edit it. I'm going to take this lock constraint off and just bring this up, increasing the height, and we'll increase the width as well. So we set 150 on the width. And what I'm going to do is just set a height constraint. You can constrain these down if you so desire, but I'm just going to use, for speed, the block constraint to block this all. And hit close. So I created a curve across there, so it's nice and curved now. I want to draft these ends towards a point now. So let's come down to the bottom. We're going to use this bottom. But to do that, we need to disassociate these sketches with their support. The reason being is because when I come over in the draft workbench, what we'll be using, because we can't use a draft action against this in the part design because it's a bit too complex, we're going to be using the rotate tools in the draft. Now, if I haven't disassociated these with that support, if I try to move these, then the placement will be affected, not the attachment. And at the moment, the placement is read only, so I can't actually change this placement. As you can see, that's read only. So to disassociate them, we can select all those sketches, come down to the support, click, hit clear, and OK. That's now got no support. Map mode, we can set that to deactivated. And now we can click on the additive loft and press the spacebar. You can see all those sketches are there. And if we click on them, you see the placement is first and there's no attachment. So we remove that attachment. Let's bring back the additive loft. And now we're in the draft workbench. We need to select the bottom plane to work upon. Now I'm going to select this toggle draft grid. When you see this, this is normally shrunk up over here with a drop down, like so. We need the snapping to be selected, and also this icon here, the snap to endpoint. Also we need the gridding on, so let's turn the gridding on. At the moment this is actually on the right place, but I'm going to select this plane, go to utilities and select plane. That places that along there. What I'm now going to do is start to move this underlying sketch. So select the additive loft, press the spacebar. We've got these sketches. Click on the sketch that I want to move or rotate, which is this one. Come up to modifications, rotate, and now we'll get the crosshairs. If I hover over this edge, you see that will snap to the vertex and we get a white point with a blue line, the same as the snapping tools. Look to the left, you can see the rotate has been highlighted. Click, you see the base angle is now being shown. If I move off, you can see the base angle changes. Let's move back on and click again. Now I can move this like so, and we can move that into position. I want to rotate this to make the point at this end more curved. So we can move this, and I can actually snap it to points. But I'm just going to move it to about 4 degrees. And because the left hand side is highlighted, if you look to the left, if I just type 4 and hit enter, that's moved that 4 degrees. We're now going to do the same on this side. Select the sketch, go to modifications, rotate, and then hover over this point. Click, move off, come back. You can see the base angle is now, once we've actually snapped to that point, is 0. Click again, and now we've got control. So we need to go 360 minus 4. We can actually do that by typing in 360 minus 4, hit enter, and that's positioned correctly there. Bring back the additive loft, you can see we've got the curve there. Let's bring this around, and I'm going to do the same along here just to make a bit of a curvature in here. Click the back, and we've got to move the working plane to make it easier. Utilities, select plane. We can see body is not a planar object. That's because we selected the body. You can see the body has been selected there. Let's click off, select that face. That's better. So we've got the face now. Utilities, and then select plane. So now we've got that plane in position. We can start moving the underlining sketches. Again, select the additive loft and press the spacebar to hide it, and just center ourselves. Let's get an idea of what we need to move. So we need to move these points here, these outer points, because these two are our front points. Select the sketch, go up to modifications, rotate, hover over that point, click, move away, come back. So the base angle to the left is now highlighted. Click, and we'll move this into position. So I'm just going to move it outwards. That's saying 9 degrees there. So let's go 10 and hit enter. And let's move this one as well. So click the sketch, modifications, rotate, hover over that point, click, move off, back on, click again, and rotate this to 350 and hit enter. Now if we look at this, we can see what's happened. Let's bring back the additive loft, and we've got the starts of our nose cone. I can hide this gridding now in the draft, so come over to the gridding or come down here and click the gridding. And I'm just going to do the same with sketches. Highlight all the sketches and press the spacebar. So now we have the first part of the nose cone done. We need to create an attachment to allow us to attach the wing to this. For this, I'm going to come back over to the part design and have a look at the model. I'm just going to click into the spare space just to make sure that nothing's selected. Let's bring this into position and press the right so we can look at this straight on. Now nothing's selected, so I'm going to create a sketch. If I zoom out, you can see the planes that have been attached. So we're going to go for the YZ plane. So we can click it here or click over on the left hand side and hit OK. Now I've created a sketch. And at the moment it's running through the back. We're going to bring this forward so it's running in the front. To do that, we're going to come over to the model. We're going to click on that sketch that we've just created. Come down to the attachment. The attachment's first because it's attached to a plane. And we'll come down to the position. Now you can see that our axis is running red along here and green along the vertical. So Z, which is blue, is going to be running this way, which is normal to sketch. Click on the Z and start moving this forward. We're just going to move it so it intersects the nose cone. So this is going to be the start of where the attachment starts. So we can look at our Z and decide how far away from the back this is going to attach. I'm happy with that. So now I'm going to use the section view. To sketch, view section. So we've sliced our way through that nose cone so we can see inside. Now I want to bring in the geometry, but I'm not going to be able to bring in these. What I need to do is bring the sketches in because I'm trying to reference the edges that we sliced through with the section view, and this is not going to work unless I get an edge like this, which as you can see there's an edge there. But obviously these aren't edges because we just sliced through the section view. The back edge will be able to pull through, but we can get those from the sketch. So let's bring back the sketch. So I'm just going to click and then hit escape to get the mouse pointer back and click on the sketch and press the spacebar on these sketches. So the two sides, and press the spacebar on those. And I'm just going to hide the additive loss. So press the spacebar on additive loss and hide them. So you can see this is our section view and how they lay in there. I'm going to pull these in for reference using the create edge link to external geometry and pull this line in and this line in. You can see a point has been made where that section view intersects. So now I can create my attachment point for the wing that goes under here. I'm going to use a simple circle, and then we're going to draft this. I'm going to make sure the auto constraints on, so to come onto the task, the auto constraints are on, the edit controls. So that means when I hover over this center line where I want to place this circle, it will attach. So we'll bring this out and attach that to the center line. We're going to move this down, so we're going to hit the escape key and grab hold of the center of this circle and bring it down. Now I need to decide how wide this is going to be, the actual radius of it, so I'm going to bring the additive loft back in and have a look at this. I want to attach this circle to this point with a point on line constraint. So clicking on the point on line constraint and then clicking this point and this circle, that attaches through there. I don't have to worry about the other side because it's a mirror of what I've just done, and that will be hovering over there. If I try to attach this, it will actually come up in error, redundant constraint. Now we've got our circle. I can reduce this down or move it to a different point, so we can decide where this is going to go, and you can see how that's being manipulated by that point. So let's have a look from the right and decide how this is going to sit. So I want quite a wide point down here. So this is okay. I'm going to use the line and connect to this circle here, connect to the point, make sure that's coincident, and then come out and connect to the other side. The reason why I've done this is because I want to remove this circle here. These points need to join up. You can see those apart, so we use a coincident constraint on there. You could use the polyline if you wanted to do it all in one go. I'm going to use the trim tool, this one here, and we're going to trim this edge away. I'm going to leave this line here, but I'm going to create another circle inside, like so. And I'm going to use the trim tool again and just trim away the circle, and now I can start trimming away these edges here. So just trim that one and trim this one. When you highlight the edge, you can see it's gone yellow all the way along here, and we want to keep this part here. So trimming will mean it trim up to that first point. Now we have our arc. I'm just going to hit escape, and we can put some dimensions in here. So I can decide where this is going to sit. So we've still got this point here. We can move this down and decide where this is going to go. And we've got this one, and I think something like that will do us. So now I can lock down this length. And also we're going to lock down this arc as well with a radius of 11 millimeters. Let's do this one. Nine. And also we need to make sure that these points are in line with each other. So I'm going to select those and use a horizontal constraint. That's all locked down nicely now. So now these are all in line. Let's go over to task and hit close. You can see we've got the attachment point starting to take shape. We need to select the pad, make sure the sketch is selected, it's inside the body, and let's select the pad. This is going forwards at the moment. We could reverse it, send it backwards. And I'm going to leave it around about that length because we're going to draft the sides. Let's hit OK. Now I want to draft the sides, so I'm going to take this face. So the faces that I want to move, and come up to the draft, which is on the part design, apply dress up feature and draft. You can see as I move the draft angle, those are actually moving, but we're getting a different effect than what we want. We want to actually shrink the top of these up here, draft them inwards, rather than this being drafted this way. To do that, we need a neutral plane, so something that's not going to move. So I'm going to click on the neutral plane and I'm going to select the bottom. So we don't want this to move, we just want these to move. So now when I draft those edges, and we're going to place it reverse pull direction and move this up, you can see how those are moving. So we're drafting them this way. So we're going to place 20 on the draft and then come around to the other side and add a face and add this face. And if we move the draft up, you can see how that's been drafted there. So add the other face as well and add this face and just tweak the draft in, and you can see what's happening. And we can decide on the amount we want this drafted. Maybe a bit more. So now we've got our drafting of this in here. Hit OK. You can see we've got the attachment points ready to go for the wing that's going to sit underneath. So on screen is an example of the method that we're going to be using to create the wing for our F1 nose cone. You can see we have this dip going around the point of the nose, and we have some shaping. Now this is a very simple wing where I haven't added any extra shaping at the back, but you'll see that I'm using a profile sketch and also a path that flows through there. But why, when I bring back the additive pipe, I have some twisting. So if we look at this on profile, you can see we have this twisting going through this aerofoil. This is due to an auxiliary spline. So I created this sketch, and this determines the front profile of this. So we get a hybrid between the side and the front profiles. If I move the sketch, come down to the attachment, come down to the position, move this along the Z, hit Ctrl R, you can see how the wing is being adjusted. So we can adjust the twisting of this wing just by changing the position of this sketch. So let's create a very simple wing. We're going to first come into the sketch for the additive loft, and we're looking at this middle sketch just to get some dimensions. So double click it and we get this 90mm length. Let's hit close and hide this body. We're going to create a new body, so I'm going to clap this and click on the body, create a new body, and we're going to click on top and create a new sketch. So we're looking down on this along the XY plane. So let's first get our dimensions in, so we know the body was 90mm long. So I'm going to place a polyline in here, and this is just to get some idea of how wide this is going to be. So let's hit escape again, and set this one to 90mm. Hit OK, and click on this one and this one and make those equal. So this is the length of the body. Let's hit close. We can see that there, and let's bring back this body and see how this looks. So this is obviously going to be too long. If I right click, transform the body and brought this over and up, then that's going to look too long for the actual placement there. Let's hit OK. So let's double click that sketch and let's bring this down a bit. So rather than 90mm, let's say about 60mm. See how that looks. So that looks much better. So that's our reference. I hit close and just going to hide this body, and we're going to rename the new body to wing body. Now we've got this sketch. Let's make the top profile. So this is what it's going to look like from the top. This is important to note how many arcs or lines we create in here. So I'm going to use this tool here, the arc, and I'm going to create 3 arcs. Again, remember, we're only going for a basic aerofoil. We'll get into more complex aerofoils later on, more complex wings. So the first one we're going to create is an arc, and then I'm going to decide how this is going to sit. So this is going to be like the nose part, and we're going to bring this around this way, like so, with a bit of curvature, and also bring this around this way. Notice I haven't constrained these yet. I'm going to make sure that this point and this point are symmetrical to this line, and using the symmetrical constraint. So that one's symmetrical there, so when we move this, it moves in and out. Use this point and use a tangency so we get a smooth transition. The same with this one and this one. And we'll take this point and make sure they're in line, so we get the right dimensions, and also the same for this one. Make sure those are in line. So we can move these out, but I'm going to take also these 2 points and make sure those are in line with a vertical constraint. So we've got our shape, and we've got 3 arcs, 1, 2 and 3. This is important because we're going to match this number when we do our front profile. Let's hit close. So at the moment we've got these arcs. This is really construction geometry, so we can change that to construction geometry. So these 2. Hit close, and now we've got this here. So this is our path. We're now going to make a profile. Now I'm going to use a simple slot just to do this. So we're going to create a sketch, and we want to bring it around this way, so along the XZ plane. Click that, hit OK. We now can create our sketch. Now this has got to sit in the middle of this, because if we place a slot here, like so, in the middle of here, and that's quite wide, so let's just bring this down a bit. Something like this, and we try to use this across here, then we may get some issues. We may get some breaking of this. I'll show you this. So I'm going to make a sweep across here, also known as additive pipe. Make sure the profile sketch, I've dropped the E on this one, but that's okay. I'm just going to leave that as it is. Make sure the profile sketch is selected, and then select the path, and use the sweep or come out to Part Design. It's an additive feature, and in here it's called the additive pipe. Sweep and additive pipe are the same. See, that one's all right. So we've got some valid geometry there. Sometimes when you do this and you have this and it's way over here, you may get a break in here. So it's always worth making sure. I hit OK and come into this and double click the profile sketch. It's well worth taking this profile and making sure that it covers around about the middle here, or even because we're dealing with the shape, we can place it along the ends and actually import the geometry like so. Hit escape and connect up and say these 2 points, and get rid of the redundants. So we've got our geometry all connected up to here, so we can follow these around. If we want to do more profiles along here, we can use this. Let's hit close, and you can see we've got the start of our wing. So look at the body and we can see how that's going to sit on there. But this isn't finished. We want to add some depth to this, so we want this to dip down. So we're starting, maybe a bit too wide. Let's carry on. So let's hit OK and hide that body. We can come around to the right and zoom in. So we're going to affect this so it dips down. So it keeps the same shape this way, but we need a profile this way. Click right, make sure nothing's selected, and create a new sketch. This time we're looking along the YZ plane and hit OK. We're going to match the number of edges here. And we're going to use a very similar technique. So I'm going to use an arc again. Bring this down and we'll have this curving up and the same this side. Again, we want to make symmetry across these 2 points and this one. Make those symmetrical. Tangency across these two and the same on the other side. Let's bring this back down. So these 2 points here, make them tangent. And make sure these 2 points are in line. Horizontal constraint. And we want the sketch from in here because we want to keep the ends in line as well. Come out to the model and just hide this additive pipe, and we've got this path. So we're going to bring in some geometry, create an edge, link to external geometry, and just bring in these points. So this point here, this vertex, and this vertex of that top spline, that top path. Hit escape to get the mouse pointer back, and we'll just hide that and make sure that this point and this point are in line, like so, and do the same for this side as well. And hit escape, and we can adjust these and bring these up, bring these across. So we're moving this way to make more of a bow here. Once you're happy, we can close this. So let's bring back the additive pipe so you can see what's happening. And we've got this path that runs along this way. So how do we use this as an auxiliary spline? Well, let's go into the additive pipe, and we've got the pipe parameters, which we don't need. We've got this section orientation. This is where we can add in the auxiliary. Now we can add the object, click on the object and click the sketch. See what's happened? Starting to take effect. We're going to hit OK and we get this shaping, and what we can do is come into the sketch and play about with this. Let's bring this up and in, close, and that's starting to take effect there. Also, we can change the position. So if I click on this sketch, let's show where it is. So it's there. It's behind at the moment. We come into the attachment and look along the Z. We're moving this along the Z so it's normal to sketch, and you can see how it's moving along there. Hit Control R and we have full control basically over where that will sit. So I can decide on the shaping that I want just by changing the location. And at any time we can come into this additive pipe, double click it, and just come down to the auxiliary, this one here, and see where it says object. Let's remove that from there and change this to standard and hit OK. So back to normal. Let's place it back in. Once you're happy, we can just hide that sketch and then bring back the body and decide where that's going to be placed. Just by transforming the wing, we can place this into position, like so, and hit OK. At any time we can adjust these, so we can come into the additive pipe and look at, say, the profile sketch, double click it, and increase the size of it or change the shape. Now we've positioned this wing, we can actually duplicate these up and create additional wings of different sizes. I can come over to the wing body, come out edit, duplicate selection, hit OK. We just OK the error that's come up, the exception. Now we've got another wing body that we can right click, transform, and move backwards. I can come into the additive pipe, making sure that it's active by double clicking on it. You can see that wing body 001 is now bold, so that's now active. We can find the sketches and the profile. So you can see the profile in there. Let's hide the others. Double click on that profile, and we can adjust the size and hit close. And we just transform that into position. Once you're happy with the placement, just hit OK. And then we can add extra features in here, like some kind of siding, some veins, etc., to build up our model. So let's add some detail to this. I'm going to come around to the side, and I'm looking at this, and I want to add some kind of side plate to this. So we're going to use a sweep. Before we go ahead and create the sweep, we're just going to go through a few problems that may occur. At the moment, I have this object here for demonstration purposes, and we have the shape or profile that we want to sweep through this path. If I try to sweep this, we're going to hit an error. The sweep won't take because the sketch actually sits away from the main body. Remember that in part design we can't create multiple bodies in one single body element. So if I try to sweep this through using this profile and control clicking path and using the sweep, it looks like it's applied, but when we hit OK, we can see that nothing's been applied to that object. Come back into the additive pipe or the sweep, you can see that's applied there, but have a look and you can see how far away it is from that object. We need to close the distance here. So let's do this again. Let's fix our problems. Double click the sketch, come in. And it's a good idea if you've got something like this, you can actually reference the geometry. So we can pull in part of this geometry. We can see that geometry has been pulled in there. So I've referenced the edge of this pad. Hit escape, we can actually connect up this point on this line, a point on line constraint. That's moved our object to the pad, and that's sufficient to create a complete body. Let's hit close. Let's try the sweep again. Select the sketch, and then I have control click the edge that we want to use, or the sketch, and then use the sweep. If I hit OK now, our body is now complete. I'm going to hide the body and just leave these two here. We're going to be doing this on this bottom part here. So this wing body, which is this one. And what we need to do is right click on this and toggle active body. So this is now bold. We can double click on that also to activate the active body. We're going to come in and create a sketch upon here for the path that we want to take. So I'm going to click on here and create a new sketch. We're looking at this from the side now, and I'm going to bring in some geometry. So I'm going to bring in this line here. I'm going to use that with an arc and create an arc that goes through like this. And then we're going to place this point on this line with a point on line constraint. And I'm going to do the same for this side as well. So we have a path. It's up to you how you want to create this path. But this is what I'm going to go for the time being. Let's hit close. What we can do with that path is that we can come around to the right and making sure that nothing's selected, and we're going to create a sketch, and we want it along this plane here, the YZ plane, so facing this object. Let's hit OK. I'm going to come in now and make sure that any geometry we create actually intersects like so. So it's intersecting that line and also intersecting our model. So that's roughly about in the middle. Let's hit close. I haven't finished with this. This is just for demonstration purposes. We can create something else in here in a minute. We need to select the sketch and we need to select that path. And we're going to use the additive pipe or the sweep again. That sweeps right across there. And we're going to hit OK. If we created something like this, it's attached to that wing. We can now take what's been created, the additive pipe, and use the mirroring to mirror the feature over the other side. And that mirrors that feature to here. Let's hit OK. So now we've got the feature going across there. When we're doing a part design mirror, we also may hit another problem that can easily be fixed, and it's all around placement. We have this additive pipe. If we take this additive pipe and mirror this using create a mirror feature, also on part design, apply a pattern, mirrored, you can see that it's mirrored across the vertical sketch axis. So this one here. So this is the vertical axis actually of the sketch. So if we look at this, we can see this is in red, which means it's an error. That means our vertical sketch axis is off. If we come into the sketch, cancel that, and look at our pad, this one here, this is where it's going to be mirroring across. So that's how I look at the sketch. We can see that our origin sits here. So if we created anything here that's connected to this side, it will be mirrored across this origin because the feature will be reflected over the same origin. So if we look at additive pipe and we bring back the profile and double click the profile, we can see this is the sketch vertical axis, which is the same origin as this pad. So when it's reflected over to the other side, it will sit about here. Let's close this. And because this is attached to here, what we can do is come into the pad, double click it, and we need to move this across because when we reflect the item, it sits disconnected from this body. So all we have to do is take these 2 points and this vertical line and place this in symmetry. Let's get rid of the redundant constraints because we've got this horizontal constraint here and hit delete. Hit close now, everything would have shifted across. If we look back at the profile sketch, we can see now if this was mirrored across this line, it will sit here and it will be connected to this side. I'm just going to Control Z that and close. And now I'm going to take this additive loft and use the mirror feature. And you can see we have a successful mirror. So let's show you how we can Boolean these objects together. Now we're going to hit a bit of a problem here, and that's around origin. We can see we have the shapes in here. Now, when we Boolean these together, we're going to first need an active body. So I've hidden this body here, pressing the spacebar on that, and I'm going to select the bottom wing as the active body. So I'm going to double click that. Now that's active. We make sure nothing's selected. We come up to Part Design and Boolean Operation. We now get the other bodies that we can Boolean against them. We need to fuse. I'm going to Boolean in this object. Let's see what happens. I hit Add Body and click on this object. We can see we haven't got the same shape as what we had before. This has moved forwards. Now why is that? Let's cancel this and look a bit deeper at our model. We have two bodies, each of which has an origin. So I'm just going to show this origin. This shows the origin to the active body, which is the bottom one. So this one here, this body here. And we can see the point of origin is here. Let's see what happens when we bring back the point of origin on the other body, this one here. Let's click. And as you can see, they differ. So they've been built around different points of origins. This will be the same as our main body, this one here. And if we come into the main body and bring back its origin, we can see it's been built from this point. Just going to hide, pressing the spacebar, the other points of origin, leaving this origin of the original body still visible. And let's come into the very first part, the additive loft, and bring back one of the sketches and double click on it. It's a bit messy, so what I'm going to do is come in and just hide the wing. So now we can see this sketch. Let's hide the origin. We can see where it's actually being created around. So this point here is moving forwards. Let's bring back the origin, and you can see the origin is at that point. Let's compare this to, say, our wing. I just hide that sketch of our original body. So our point of origin of this body is here, and the point of origin for the wing, press the spacebar, is here. So what happens when we actually Boolean these together? Well, this wing will actually move backwards to make the points of origins match. So if we come into the body and make sure that the draft is visible, so we can see that there. Got our wing body active at the moment. Let's make our body active by double clicking and hide the origin. So we just have the origin of this wing here. Make sure nothing's selected. Part Design, Boolean Operation. Active body disappears, and we can add a body, and we'll add this one. And you can see it's moved backwards. So now if I hit OK and come up, look at a point of origin, we can see those 2 points of origin will match. So how do we solve this issue? Consider we have this point of origin at the back. Well, we don't want it, we want it here. Well, it's quite simple. If we come into the body and come down to the Boolean, you'll see that we've got the wing body inside there. So if this is collapsed, just to span this out, we've got the wing body inside here. Come down to the data tab and look at the placement. Open this up. You'll see that we've got position in here and we've got the X, Y, and Z. So we can actually change this. So if we place this, because this is placement, this means we can use the axis here, so Z up, X this way, or we can come up to view and toggle axis cross so we can see where we're going to place this. So I'm going to move it along the X and we'll just move this forward and just hitting Control R. So this is all valid Boolean at the moment. If I move this too far, what will happen is that we'll get some strange effects. So if I move it a little bit forward now, you'll see the model's rolled over. That's because our Boolean has failed. The wing is actually too far forward. So just bring the X back and hit Control R. And you can see that has now fixed itself. So we can place it where we want, and the same for the Z. Once we're happy, we can come back to the body and we'll just collapse it, and now we can deal with this wing here. So again, I'm looking to attach this to either the body or this wing. I'm just going to hide the origin, and the same in the body. The body is active, so I'm going to run a Boolean operation up in Part Design, Boolean operation, and then add a body to fuse. I'm going to select this body. You can see that's pushed it right at the back, and we just move it the same way. So hit OK, come in, here's the Boolean, open this up, come in, find the wing, and you can see that we can change the X. And then change the Z. Once we're happy, we can now see that we have finished our nose cone. So how do we overcome this problem in the future? Well, first of all, it's being mindful where we place our objects. So I'm going to place a sketch along the XY plane, and say we had our body like this. I'm taking note of where I want the attachment position, which is there. So I know when I pad this, like so, then we can say our attachment position, if we bring back axis toggle cross, we can see that attachment position is there at point of origin. So when we create our next body, create a new sketch on the XY plane, I know that if we just hide this body, that I want to create something that attaches along here. And we'll pad that about 5mm. So I know that's in the correct position for this body. If they're not in the correct position, I need to affect the sketch. So if I look at this pad, come into it, look at the sketch that it originates from, we come down to the attachment, not the placement. The placement will be read only, and come down to the X, Y, and Z. And what I can do is change the Z. Hit Control R to get it into the correct position that I want. Say there. And now we can do the Boolean between the two. So Part Design, Boolean, and then add a body and add this one in. and those are Boolean together successfully. So changing the underlying sketch is the same effect as changing the placement of the body, going into the placement, going to the position, and then changing our position in here. So there's two ways of doing that. You can either use the sketch and get those all in position before we do the Boolean, or you can come in and change the placement. There are other methods to do this, such as assembly workbenches, using face binders, etc. But I don't want to get too deep into this. This is quite a long lesson and I need to keep that as short as possible. And we'll go into it in another lesson. So that's it. That's how to create a very simple nose cone in the part design. We can also use the curves workbench to design that and create something a bit more interesting. But I'm going to leave that with you, play an experiment, and again we'll go back to this and try something a bit more complex. So thank you for visiting the channel, and I'll see you again soon. If you like what you're seeing, please subscribe to the site. I also have a Ko-Fi or a coffee site that you can donate to if you so desire, and that's at ko-fi.com/MANG0. I also run a Patreon where you can subscribe and get extra content, and that's at www.patreon.com/MangoJellySolutions. Any money that's kindly donated will be used to expand the channel. Thanks a lot for watching and subscribing, and I'll see you again soon.